Namaskar, good evening, Adab. Welcome you all for today's 30th episode of our weekly Facebook Live sessions for patient education. Since the beginning, our team has brought to you various health related topics of general public interest. Most of the topics of discussion have been related to ocular health and common eye disorders. However, few of them have been topics related to general health issues as well. Today is one such topic related to your diet. I'm sure that most of you, or at least many of you, believe that consumption of fatty foods is either bad for your heart or is going to make you fat. You might be surprised to know that there cannot be a myth more misguiding than this. To tell you more on this, we have with us today a young, dynamic, and very knowledgeable nutrition and lifestyle specialist with us, who incidentally has made enormous positive changes in my own life and lifestyle with his timely advices and guidance. He firmly believes that prevention is preferable to cure, and being healthy is way more important in life than anything else. Dr. Parikshit Bhattacharya, as he is called, is a very busy and popular medical practitioner who prescribes health, not pills. Welcome to this show, Dr. Parikshit Bhattacharya,
Good
and over
evening.
to you.
Thanks for having me. Hello, everyone, my friends, my family, my colleagues, my critics, and patients. So glad to be here one more time to break some myths which we have about the food we eat and the better ways in which we can be healthy. So আজকে আমি কথা বলবো about something we feared for years, and this goes back to I think the 1950s and 60s. তো আমরা তো সবাই শুনেছি that fat বেশি খেলে problem, and আমরা বলতে I'm talking about doctors as well, not just the non-medical personnel. So even till this date, doctors across the world prescribe low fat restricted ways of life. So I'm going to touch upon all of that, why they've been advising similarly, why it's been going that way. So I'm just opening the slide which I've made for some reference. Okay, so we're starting off now. প্রথমেই বলে দিই এটা খুব ডাক্তারি বা সায়েন্টিফিক ডিসকাশন হবে না. I feel that for everyone to understand why we have a wrong notion about fat, it is very important to go back historically, or the nutritional history which has been primarily responsible for the misconception we have about fat. ঠিক আছে? So if you see, I've named this the big fat belief. Now, this caption has been inspired from some of my mentors. So I'll come to this name in a second. So all my life, myself, and I'm sure shobai, we've always thinking that ki khawa uchit. What is that food to give us the best of health, optimal health? Everyone loves to be healthy just by eating food. Who likes to going to the gym and things like that? That is hard work. So there are lots of books, there are countless resources online. So I myself was in the same boat. So it is very early, I think early 2000s, when I started thinking about this. But yes, over the years, I've figured out some ways in which you can be healthy just by eating right. So now the next thing which happened, this happened, I think 2012-13. You come across some inspiration from certain people. And yes, I did accidentally come across them, and then I've been in touch with them regularly. So one such person, যার থেকে আমি এই স্লাইডের আইডিয়াটা পেয়েছি, she's one main inspiration regarding this fat. Her name is Nina Tycholz. Now, a quick info about her is she's not a doctor, she's not a nutritionist, she's a journalist. But sometimes ki hoy, it takes someone outside our field to really investigate what the problem is. So she has a very famous book. I recommend shobai eta porben, The Big Fat Surprise. And what I'll be sharing in today's discussion is almost 10 to 12 years of her tireless research and probing. Yes, আমি ওই কিছু কিছু ওইখান থেকে স্ন্যাপশটস দেখাবো আজকে, and there are some more people in the field like nutritionists, doctors, of course. But yes, the name is inspired from her today's topic, the big fat belief, because she showed us that there's a lot of surprise in the fat, and most of it is good. So this is what Nina had realized. She said, I realized that there was a story of persistent suppression of the science on cholesterol and the science on fat that went back decades. তো হ্যাঁ, আমরা তো সবাই কোলেস্ট্রল আর ফ্যাটকে একই বোটে ফেলি, ঠিক আছে? ডিমের কুসুম ইজ ফ্যাট, ডিমের কুসুমে কোলেস্ট্রল বেড়ে যায়, তাতে কি হবে? হার্ট ডিজিজ হবে. This is what we've been living on for years. Okay, a quick disclosure. I receive no industry support of any kind, except for, generous and open-minded doctors like Dr. Bishwas, who give me platforms like this. And yes, I do face a lot of obstacles in doing what I do. But, I guess I signed in for this, so no complaints. I just enjoy what I'm doing very much. And if I have supportive people like this around me, it makes the job much easier and more pleasant. আচ্ছা, এই খাবারগুলো দেখে সবার জিভে তো জল আসে। মাটন কষা, মাখন, ডিম, ঘি, চিজ, পনির বাটার মশলা। তো এগুলোতে একটা কি কমন জিনিস আছে, এন্ড আই এম শিওর সবাই এইগুলো খেলেও কম কম খায়। কেন? উই হ্যাভ দিস ফিয়ার, বেশি খেলে কি হবে? হার্ট ব্লক হয়ে যাবে, মোটা হয়ে যাব, কোলেস্ট্রল বেড়ে যাবে, ব্লাড প্রেশার বেড়ে যাবে। So, Dr. Biswas, you agree with me? The fear associated with these foods is immense.
Absolutely. Everybody has, yes.
So these are, all those occasional treats. And of course, একটা ডাক্তারকে গিয়ে আমরা যদি কখনো বলি আমি রেগুলারলি মাটন খাই, he'll say your heart is screwed, right? So these are what I would categorize as fatty foods. Lots of fat. Yes, they have a lot of fat, no doubts about that. And yes, fat is just one of the 3 macronutrients in our regular food. It's carbohydrates thake, protein thake, fat thake. So today we're primarily going to talk about fat, and we're going to talk about the misconceptions. Egulo holo ki kore ami to prothomei bollam, it's going to be less science, less doctory today. It's going to be very simple knowledge for all of you listening today, and why we've reached a scenario where even the health industry, the fitness industry has this notion that fat may be bad for us. Okay, so is the fat we eat really bad for us? So this is the big question. And are we being misled in any way, knowingly or unknowingly? If you go to the health section of any market, you will see countless bottles and jars and sauces jekhane ki lekha thake low fat, 79, 98% fat free. So you can see even Kellogg's 2% fat, a mayonnaise low fat. So tar mane automatically what they're trying to say is low fat is healthy, right? আর আরেকটা জিনিস মনে রাখবেন, একটা মার্কেটে যদি একটা হেলথ সেকশন থাকে where they supposedly keeping healthy food, what does that mean? বাকি মার্কেটে কি সব unhealthy food? So give this a thought. So what I just said, if it's a health food section in the grocery store, what does that make the rest of the food sold there? So for this, we have to rewind the tape now. It's going to be rewinding the tape right till the, I think, 1930s to 1950s. So it's going to be a lesson in history today, a lesson in politics today. And that's going to get really interesting now. So the history and politics of science of dietary fat. যেহেতু আজকে আমরা fat নিয়ে কথা বলছি, fat related, the history behind it and how we have arrived at such a scenario. এই ছবিটা, it was taken in the early 1920s or 30s, I think. Maasai tribe bole ekjon ache, Tanzania, Kenya, oikhane they roam the plains of Africa. Amra geography to hoyto pori je, people remember their geography. And Badiker je mohila, she also belonged to another tribe, but the difference between those 2 tribes was had Dr. Babu, George man, he had taken these photos. So he had not only taken these photos, he had studied these people for many days and many months and many years. So Maasai tribe on the right hand side, you can see he's lean, he's got muscles. Badiker Mohila, she's also similarly aged, But the big difference ওই সময় was মাসাই ট্রাইবের মানুষরা শুধু মিট খায়, দুধ খায়, and হ্যাঁ, ব্লাডও খেত. And left side, she would only be on grains. So the right side tribal was primarily on a protein and fat diet. So what this Dr. George Mann did was, he did ECGs of 600 of these people just to figure out whether there is any cardiac issue in them because of the way they eat. And you might think প্রচুর খাটাখাটনি করে এই ট্রাইবাল লোকটা, but remember they have an elderly population as well. এদের বাবারা জেঠারা ওরা শুধু সারাদিন বসে মাছি মারে আর কোনো অ্যাক্টিভিটিও করে না. So it's nothing to do with exercise নিয়ে আমি একটা ছোট্ট টাচ করবো পরে. So he found out of these 600 people in which he did a ECG, only 2 had minor defects. The remaining 598 brilliant ECGs, and this is across all age categories. Okay? So how did it all start? US President Eisenhower, he had a heart attack. Okay? Yes, it came in the front page of the papers. প্রচুর গবেষণা শুরু হলো. So they tried to figure out why did he have a heart attack. And if you see ছোট্ট একটা সাইডে গ্রাফ দিয়েছি, 1900s থেকে 1955 there was a huge spike in the incidence of heart disease. So তখন everyone started wondering heart disease বা heart attack হচ্ছে কেন বা বাড়ছে কেন. So there were some very simplistic theories. I don't know whether or what these were based on. আমি ছোট একটা রেফারেন্স দিয়েছি নিচে, Archives of Internal Medicine এ বেরিয়েছিল 1959 এ. So initially the thought was vitamin deficiency তে হতে পারে, type A personality যারা খুব stressed, anxious, আর auto exhaust মানে it could be the fumes, things like this, pollution. তো এইসব চিন্তাধারা নিয়ে লোকে ভেবেছিল হার্ট ডিজিজ হয়. And of course smoking had increased. In fact আমাদের President Eisenhower, he would smoke 4 packs a day. So the conclusion was all of this could have led to the increasing incidence of heart disease. So that was that. Now, there was a very, very, very famous person. His name was Ansel Keys. He was also known as Mr. Cholesterol. And as you can see, he was the most influential nutrition scientist of the 20th century. And sometimes in history, এমন কিছু হয়, it may be insignificant, it may have a lot of significance, but everything becomes based on that. Everything uses that as a platform and things just skyrocket from there. So this person had a major influence in our nutritional science, and আজ পর্যন্ত আমরা যখনই we want to go back in history and take out some reference papers about nutrition, we are always led back to this individual. ঠিক আছে? So Ansel Keys, he developed a diet heart hypothesis. This was in the early 1950s. And how he did it was, ওই সময় যারা মারা যাচ্ছিলেন হার্ট অ্যাটাকে, postmortems were conducted. Postmortem গুলো থেকে they opened up the heart, they opened up the major arteries, and they found that artery গুলোর ভেতরে কিছু fatty substances আছে, narrowing, which was leading to the narrowing, which led to heart disease. They send those fatty substances to the lab. Ki berolo? It's cholesterol. So from that day, cholesterol, fat, all of this started becoming the villain, fear, phobia. It started spreading. So his theory was very simple. Saturated fats পরে আমরা আসছি, but saturated fats or dietary cholesterol eventually would raise cholesterol in the blood. মানে আমি একটা ডিমের কুসুম full of cholesterol খেলাম, ওটা আমার রক্তের মধ্যে কোলেস্টেরল বাড়িয়ে দিল, ইভেন্চুয়ালি কি হলো, হার্ট ব্লক হয়ে গেল, আর্টারিজ ক্লগড, আই হ্যাভ হার্ট অ্যাটাক. So it is a very simplistic theory, but it was very, very strongly followed. So much so, the American Heart Association, and American Heart Association is a very powerful organization. আজ পর্যন্ত every country in the world, including India, follows their guidelines. Eventually the guidelines happen in India or other countries based on what they decide or think. So in 1961, Ansel Keys এর hypothesis এর জন্য, it was the first advice anywhere in the world where they started asking people to limit saturated fats and cholesterol in order to prevent heart disease. So So this is how it started. I said we have to go back in history to understand. So immediately saturated fats were taken off the menu. Saturated fat, butter, ghee, demet kusum, cheese, red meat. Basically, all of these have a lot of saturated fats. Now, I'm not getting into the technicalities of saturated fat, like chemical structure and things like that. It's too technical. Maybe we can do it some other time, detailing different types of fat. But khawar, demet kusum, red meat, cheese, all of this is saturated fat. So they shifted everything to what? Vegetable oils, margarine, things like this. কারণ ওইগুলোতে নাকি কোলেস্ট্রল বাড়বে না, কোলেস্ট্রল না বাড়লে হার্ট ডিজিজ হবে না। সো উই আর অল হ্যাপি। Again, going back further in the history, মানে আমাদের দাদুদের দাদুদের দাদুরা কি খেতেন? 3-4 রকম ফ্যাট ছাড়া we would not cook, and this is going back like even like maybe centuries ago. So the original natural fats with which we would cook were tallow, butter, and lard. Tallow, butter, and lard হচ্ছে the fat sourced from animal products like pork or cow. Butter, we all know what butter is. So this is what was happening many centuries ago. And তখনকার দিনে vegetable oil কিসে ইউজ হতো? Just look, it was a lubricant in machine. So I know it's already like scaring people. Vegetable oil. So you're all thinking, nah, ajikalkar vegetable oil gulo, I think they're much better. They're not obviously machinery vegetable oil. But wait for the surprise. I'm coming to that. So this is what oils were used in the Industrial Revolution for machinery. So it was basically an industrial product. Crisco ekta, it was one of the first vegetable oils by a very famous company, Procter and Gamble. Procter and Gamble, they were the first companies to manufacture supposed edible vegetable oil. They made it from cottonseed actually. Procter and Gamble manufactured this from cottonseeds in 1911. So vegetable oils for the first time start entering the food supply. And why was it easy for them to enter the food supply? Because American Heart Association 1961 এ তো বড় একটা guideline দিয়ে দিল that's bad for you, this is theoretically better for you. And what else? Margarine. I'm sure even till this day, a lot of people I come across, patients, friends, they avoid the butter, they bring in margarine, thinking it's less filled with cholesterol, less fatty, and touch of the vegetable cooking oil. So these were the earliest vegetable cooking oils which were used. So the supposed shift to a healthier oil. See the graph. Around 1940-50s and 1911 কিন্তু প্রথম vegetable oil তৈরি হয়েছিল, Procter and Gamble বানিয়েছিল. But then look, throughout the years till the 2000s, butter, lard, tallow, saturated fats were on the decline. কমতে একেবারে নাইরি মতো হয়ে গেছে usage. Unsaturated vegetable oils, এগুলো যদি saturated বলা হয়, vegetable oils are called unsaturated. এগুলো since 1915 skyrocketed. So right now, you go to any Spencer's, any mall, any store, এমনকি পাড়ার মুদির দোকান, সব রকমের vegetable oils পাবেন, ঠিক আছে? And that is what we all use on a daily basis, especially Indians. আমরা তো গরম করে রান্না করি। Now, despite that, look what happened. 1980 তে আর একটা রিভাইজড ডায়েটারি গাইডলাইনস, এন্ড ফর আমেরিকানস নিয়ে আমি ডিসকাস করছি বিকজ আমরা পুরো পৃথিবী আমেরিকানদের ফলো করে eventually what happens there, we start doing the same. So despite the change to a better oil, look what happened. 1980 থেকে suddenly obesity started increasing across the world, and along with it the side effects of obesity, the diseases are related to obesity, and just see how things were going. So isn't it strange? Dietary guidelines were put across আমাদের better health এর জন্য, কিন্তু কি হলো, worldwide population started getting fatter, more unhealthy. So now you want to know what was the evidence, মানে কি evidence এর basis এ এই guidelines গুলো শুরু হলো. Now look here, Ansel Keys again, very big player. He did something called a 7-country study. 7 countries মানে 7টা দেশের data he gave the American Heart Association, the nutritional bodies in. Now what happened, This is the evidence he submitted from Japan, Italy, England, Canada, Australia, and USA. So what he wanted to show was coronary heart disease deaths per 1000. মানে কজন মারা যাচ্ছে heart disease based on the fat they were consuming as total percentage of calories. So এই ডেটাটা he submitted, but this something again এটা হচ্ছে Nina Tychels যার কথা প্রথমেই বললাম, she actually went in deep with all the data. She found this, that Keys did not submit a lot of evidence. It was kind of, nitpicking, biased. This is the data which he had. এতগুলো দেশের data. So it looked like as if এই 7টা দেশের data suited him the most. The remaining he did not like. He got rid of. So this is the number of country data he actually had. He only submitted 7 countries' data. Now, another problem with the 7-country study, while Keys did find that although saturated fats seemed linked to heart disease, there was no difference in total mortality. মানে মানুষ মারা যাওয়ার মধ্যে কোনো difference পাচ্ছিলেন না. So, and now look at this. Dietary data was sampled from less than 500 men out of the 13,000 that he actually went about interviewing or finding knowledge from. So that's less than 4%. So you can understand 4% is nothing. ওখান থেকে কিছু আমাদের একটা, for the rest of our lives, for us to be following some dietary advice based on this kind of study, it sounds absurd, তাই না? And আরেকটা জিনিস, there's an island of Crete. It's a Mediterranean island, Greece. This was one of his primary hot points. Oikhane it's a small country or island with a very few people. Oikhane he did his study, and the funny thing is he did his study during a religious festival called Lent. যেখানে এমনিতেও the people are off animal products for a period of 1 month. A Crete island, he only studied 30 to 33 men. Based on this, a doctor called Walter Willett, the founder of the Mediterranean diet. Mediterranean diet is very much in vogue. Econo people, a lot of health freaks who like to be healthy, they follow the Mediterranean diet. Mediterranean diet, man, it's got a lot of grains, a lot of vegetables, and moderate amount of fatty fish and things like this. Primarily fatty fish. So the co-commissioner of Eat Lancet. Lancet is a very, very big body in the health industry. He started telling to people to go vegan. Based on this Cretan data. So I don't have anything against any specific diet, be it vegan, be it vegetarian, be it meat, but there has to be some evidence. সব কিছুর পেছনে যদি strong evidence থাকে, I'm totally game to follow it. So this is the evidence they had. 33 men, okay, from this island, এই ডেটাটা যখন জমা পড়ে, they thought, okay, Mediterranean diet is a very healthy way to go about it. And সবচেয়ে বড় problem, এটা খুব সহজ ভাষায় বোঝাচ্ছি, the 7-country study was an epidemiological study. তার মানে কি? It is an observational study. It is not a controlled study under controlled environment. যেটা আমরা gold standard ধরি, এটাকে বলে randomized control study. It is under controlled environment. এটা হচ্ছে দেশে গিয়ে সবার ইন্টারভিউ নিয়ে they came to an assumption. Now the problem with epidemiological studies is it can show association, but it cannot pinpoint a causation. এর মানেটা কি? পরের স্লাইডটা দেখলে বুঝবে। ডান দিকে কি আছে? একজন মানুষ সিগারেট খাচ্ছে, তার আঙুল একটু হলুদ হয়ে গেছে, তাই তো? তো যারা যারা সিগারেট খায়, ইউ উইল নো। বাট এবার আমি যদি বলতে শুরু করি, আই এম নোটিসিং দ্যাট যাদের আঙুল হলুদ তাদের মধ্যে লাং ক্যান্সার বেশি হচ্ছে। Does it make any sense? No. It's just a correlation, an association. সিগারেট খেলে তো আঙুল একটু হলুদ হতে পারে, তার জন্য লাং ক্যান্সার। বাট আমি যদি মাঝখানের সিগারেটটা অমিট করে দিই, তো সিমিলারলি এখানে একটা লোকেশন ছিল, ইটস কল্ড মেন, ওখানে দেখা যাচ্ছিল ডিভোর্স রেটস ইন মেন correlate with consumption of margarine. So it doesn't make sense. So what I'm trying to say is epidemiological study is not good enough for us to follow a guideline for years and years. And yes, এটা আমি বলছি না, a lot of established scientists realized that the evidence was weak. So scientists knew this was weak evidence, so more probing was necessary. So what did they start doing? অনেকগুলো governments across the world started doing randomized controlled clinical trials to prove or disprove the diet heart hypothesis. So there were actually a large number of government-funded randomized controlled clinical trials. Almost 25,000 men and women in experiments lasting 1 থেকে 12 বছর. Okay, so এটা would give us a better idea যে আদৌ cholesterol problem কিনা, আদৌ saturated fats problem কিনা. So the surprising result, by the way, if you see the source, ছোট্ট করে ডান দিকে, British Medical Journal এ এটা 2015 এ পাবলিশ হয়েছিল, and that's a pretty big name in journal and medicine, British Medical Journal. So the results were no effect on saturated fat. So 1911 ভেজিটেবল অয়েল শুরু হলো তৈরি হওয়া, স্যাচুরেটেড ফ্যাট আমেরিকান হার্ট অ্যাসোসিয়েশন বলতে শুরু করলো ইটস ডেঞ্জারাস ফর ইউ, বাট আফটার সো মেনি স্টাডিজ ওভার সো মেনি ইয়ার্স, আস্তে আস্তে we started realizing there have been no effects on saturated fats on cardiovascular mortality or total mortality. So why then is the problem still persisting? Why the fear? Why the phobia? So now look what happened. Cholesterol down, but not the results they desired. ঠিক আছে, তো কি দেখলেন এইসব রিপোর্টে বা রিসার্চ ক্লিনিক্যাল ট্রায়ালসে? The diets would reduce cholesterol usually by around 13%, but this reduction in cholesterol had no effect on cardiovascular mortality. So the results of the diet heart hypothesis were a big zero. Remember, it was the most tested hypothesis in the history of nutrition and disease. And every health body has gone back to this study and wanted to believe it for reasons known to them. But the results of 12 years of studies, RCT's clinical trials, were zero. And some of the important studies, LA Veterans Trial, Oslo study, a study was published in the National Diet Heart Study final report. এইগুলো থেকে they tried to find whether আর অন্য কোনো প্রবলেম হচ্ছে কিনা। তো এখানে একটা LA veteran trial মানে retired persons in certain institutions, তাদের মধ্যে controlled environment they did some studies. তো দেখা গেছিল deaths for cancer একটু বাড়তে শুরু করেছে, ঠিক আছে। নাও এইটা বাড়ছে কেন, again we'll come to that, whether it was because of the fat, whether it was because of the red meat, অনেক কিছু হতে পারে। But what they tried to again establish was, আচ্ছা হার্টের খুব প্রবলেম হয়তো হচ্ছে না, কিন্তু ক্যান্সার কি বাড়ছে এতে, ঠিক আছে, আর একটা ফিয়ার মাথায় ঢুকিয়ে দেওয়া। নাও দিস ইজ দ্য প্যারেন্ট বডি হু হ্যাভ ডিকটেটেড দ্য পলিটিক্স অফ নিউট্রিশন সায়েন্স। এখানে অ্যান্সেল কিজও আছেন ইন দিস ফটোগ্রাফ। নাও দিস ওয়ার দ্য হেভি ওয়েটস দেন ইন দ্য 1960s and 70s। ওই সময় if anyone wanted to do a clinical trial, if they wanted to do some research or academic research, they had to get the permission from them. Inara jodi permission na diten, you would not be funded, you would not be given approval. And yes, they had a big role in silencing certain critics. For example, George Mann. This was George Mann, je Maasai tribe er chobi tule, he started following the tribe to find a relation or a correlation between fat and good health. So people like him were silenced. This is a very important study, the Minnesota coronary survey. ঠিক আছে, it again BMJ, British Medical Journal 2015 এ পাবলিশ হয়েছিল। পরিষ্কার বলে দেওয়া হয়েছিল, the more the men, ever this is going to be shocking for everyone, the more the men lowered their cholesterol, the more likely they were to die from cardiovascular defect. Every day I have patients who do their lipid profile. আমি অ্যাডভাইস করি লিপিড প্রোফাইল করতে। কোলেস্ট্রলটা যেই বেশি বেরোয় ওদের তো মানে তখনই মনে হয় হার্ট অ্যাটাক হয়ে যাবে, স্যার কোলেস্ট্রল বেশি এসছে কি করবো। So cholesterol has never been a problem. I know it's shocking to everyone. শুধু cholesterol related I might do another discussion on another day. It's a fascinating subject. But look for this. Cholesterol কম হলে we were seeing that there were more deaths due to cardiovascular disease. But we were asked to eat this way. The earliest dietary goals or advice till date have not changed much. I will talk about the latest dietary guidelines as well. But look, this is called a food pyramid. Pyramid এর নিচে যেটা থাকে, the wider area, ওইটাতে বলা হয় that should be the primary constituents of your food. তোর মধ্যে দেখছেন it's grains, bread, cereals, pasta. ওপর দিকে সবজি, fruits. যত উপর দিকটা ন্যারো হচ্ছে we're getting down to the milk products which are usually higher on fat, and একদম ওপর দিকে চিকেন, মাটন, নাটস, একেবারে ওপর দিকে কি অয়েলস, ঠিক আছে? So oil sweets তো তার মধ্যে আছে, but this is the way the world has been advised to eat from the early 1960s, 1980s এ আবার নতুন গাইডলাইন্স বেরোলো. But look at this. This is again US population উপর deaths per 1 lakh US people. Between 2016 and 17, look what is the leading cause of heart disease. So what I'm trying to say is, what is the leading cause of death? It is heart disease. তারপরে ক্যান্সার, তারপরে things like stroke, Alzheimer's, diabetes. তো 2016-17 পর্যন্ত people continued dying primarily because of heart disease. So what was the point of all that dietary guideline where they asked us to stop saturated fat, stop fat, reduce cholesterol in our diet? It somehow wasn't helping. So then they started blaming us. I remember this just pans out like an interesting story. So the government started blaming the people. Either আমরা dietary guidelines follow করছিলাম না, or আমরা exercise করছিলাম না. কোথাও তো কাউকে blame করতে হবে. But then some people started researching this as well. Again, hats off to Nina Tychols. She started researching that what happened between 1970 and 2014. If they are telling us, or if they are telling you out there that আপনারা exercise enough করেননি, বা আমরা তো dietary guidelines দিয়ে দিয়েছি, আপনারা follow করেন, তাই জন্য আপনাদের heart disease হচ্ছে. But look what they found. এই 1970 থেকে 2014 they found ওদের গাইডলাইন্স অনুযায়ী আমরা ফ্রুটস এন্ড ভেজিটেবলস বাড়িয়ে দিয়েছি, গ্রেনস বাড়িয়ে দিয়েছি, মানে সিরিয়ালস, আটা, ময়দা বাড়িয়ে দিয়েছি, প্লান্ট ভেজিটেবলস বাড়িয়ে দিয়েছি. আমরা তাদের কথা শুনে আমরা 28% রেড মিট খাওয়া কমিয়ে দিয়েছি, 79% মিল্ক এন্ড 13% ডিম খাওয়া কমিয়ে দিয়েছি, বাটার তো ছেড়েই দিন, ইটস আউট অফ দ্য ফুড, অ্যানিমাল ফুডস কমিয়ে দিয়েছি. অ্যান্ড the most startling thing is, as per the CDC, more than half of Americans in 2016 now meet the government's physical activity guidelines. So, আমরা exercise করাও বাড়িয়ে দিয়েছি, এমনি এমনি এত জিম খুলছে চারদিকে. So, এদিকে প্রমাণ হলো যে আমরা ওদের অ্যাডভাইস ফলো করছি, yet heart disease বেড়ে চলেছে. So, isn't this surprising, Dr. Biswas?
Yes, very much.
So, despite that, heart attack এ লোকে মারা যাচ্ছে. So, something is not adding up here. The top left graph shows you a very simplistic demonstration. 1965 থেকে 2011. The orange line says the carbohydrate intake has gone up. ওই তো fruits, vegetables, grains, এগুলো তো carbohydrate থাকে. The fat intake has gone down by 25%. And look at the saturated fat intake. একেবারে নিচের দিকে. Now, খাবারের ব্যাপারে একটা জিনিস সবাই মনে রাখবেন, ফ্যাট, প্রোটিন, কার্বোহাইড্রেট, তিনটে তো ম্যাক্রোনিউট্রিয়েন্ট আছে. তো আমাদের যদি বলা হয় ফ্যাট কমিয়ে দিতে, আমাদের তো পেট ভরাতে হবে, আমাদের স্যাটিসফাইড হতে হবে. তো অটোমেটিকলি আমরা যদি ফ্যাট কমিয়ে দিই, উই নিড সাম সাবস্টিটিউট, আইদার ফর সেশিয়েশন, পেট ভরা, সাপোজড এনার্জি রিকোয়ারমেন্ট. Now, protein is something in our food. Protein যেমন মাছ, মাংস, ডিম, ডাল, some milk products. Proteins is something you cannot over consume. একটা পয়েন্টের পর বেশি খেলেই শরীর খারাপ করবে, বেশি খেলে পেট ভরে যাবে. So the protein intake usually remains the same, and it has remained the same for years and years. So now think, keeping the proteins constant, আমরা যদি ফ্যাটটাকে কমাতে বলি, automatically, whether you like it or not, the carbohydrates go up. And if you see the bottom right graph, 1975-74 ওইখান থেকে, see the spike in our carbohydrate intake in grams. It has skyrocketed, and the fat has dipped even lower. তো যেটা বললাম, প্রোটিন কনস্ট্যান্ট থাকে, কার্বস বেড়ে গেছে, ফ্যাট কমে গেছে. এক্সারসাইজ, ওদের অ্যাকিউজেশন দ্যাট আমরা ইনাফ এক্সারসাইজ করছি না. So again, based on lots of studies, it was shown that you cannot out exercise or outrun a bad diet. Physical activity is generally insufficient by itself to bring about clinically significant weight loss. Okay, you need a dietary intervention. So now, what is the real culprit? Now we have to look at the culprit. The culprit is their dietary guidelines themselves. As strange as it may sound, aaj porjanto, this has remained the primary culprit. Now, Cano, saturated fats do not cause cardiovascular deaths. 16 meta-analysis and lots of systemic reviews looking at the link between saturated fats and heart disease, all taken together, a conclusion is that saturated fats are not associated with heart disease. And they do not have any effect on cardiovascular mortality. Saturated fat, again, recap: butter, ghee, red meat, deem. This is what we all fear. This is what our doctors fear. This is what I used to fear once upon a time until I started doing my research. Lancet, again, a very, very important, strong player in this health industry. They have published, you see, 2017. We are all afraid of saturated fat, but saturated fat is now appearing to be actually good for you. Department of Cardiovascular Disease থেকে বলা হয়েছে। Number 2 conclusion, eating cholesterol does not worsen blood cholesterol. আমি যদি একটা ডিমের কুসুম খাই, আমি যদি একটা cholesterol laden buttered piece খাই, it does not end up as clogging or cholesterol in my arteries. আমি আগের একটা ডিসকাশনে বোধহয় বুঝিয়েছিলাম বা ডিসকাস করেছিলাম how that happens. আজকে ছোট্ট I'll just give you a recap. Now, cholesterol is the fearful word for everyone. Everyone fears cholesterol. Why? আমার নিজের কোলেস্টেরল কত থাকে জানেন? 260 270, কিন্তু ল্যাব রেফারেন্স রেঞ্জে লেখা থাকে 200 উপর হলেই start a statin. Doctors just love giving statins. Patients love having statins. Everyone loves statins. And who's benefiting out of this? The pharma industry. Look at this. If you never ate food for 5 days straight, only জল খেয়ে যদি থাকেন, আপনার ব্লাড রিপোর্ট করে যদি দেখি, তাও আপনার কোলেস্টেরল 150 থেকে 200 থাকবে। কেন? Your liver is making cholesterol all the time because you need cholesterol. A large part of your brain is made of cholesterol. প্রত্যেকটা hormone in our body, steroid hormones, made of cholesterol. Vitamin D synthesis cholesterol দিয়ে হয়। Every cell membrane, nerve lining, cholesterol. তো বুঝতে পারছেন, আজকে যদি cholesterol 200 জায়গায় 20 হয়ে যায়, you will die. Instantly you are going to die. Because that is how essential cholesterol is. Yet, cholesterol high থাকলে সবার বুক ব্যথা শুরু হয়ে যায়। হ্যাঁ, a bit of cholesterol comes from the food we eat. And low levels of cholesterol have been linked to so many things: depression, Alzheimer's, stroke, neurological problems. So in general, আমি countless situation এ দেখেছি, a patient is on a statin, আমার কাছে এলো cholesterol 70, 100, মানে within 100. 99.9% of the time the patients are unhealthy. You just look at them and you think you're not doing too well. So why? Statin খাচ্ছে বলে। ওপরে দুটো ফর্মুলা আছে, C27H46O. You know what that means? That's the chemical formula of cholesterol. And there's only one cholesterol in the world. There is no good cholesterol, there is no bad cholesterol. I know, again, this is what we've been taught in our medicine as well. আমরা যখন ডাক্তারি পড়েছি, ডান দিকের ফর্মুলা C55H9806 is for triglyceride. তো triglyceride কথা আজকে ছেড়ে দিচ্ছি, but cholesterol, HDL, LDL is not even a cholesterol. পুরো পৃথিবী এগুলোকে ব্যাড গুড বলে। এইগুলো হচ্ছে, again, what has been put into the minds by the pharma companies, by the industries. So the nutshell is, the famous diet heart hypothesis has failed. Every step of the way দেখানো গেছে, কোনো scientific evidence নেই, hard evidence নেই। ঠিক আছে? So I'm sure all of you are feeling a bit more relaxed about your egg and your red meat, isn't it?
Correct.
Now, cholesterol caps started going away from all the health advisory, dropped by the American Heart Association in 2013. Finally, they own up. They say there was insufficient evidence, but ever, the danger is still not totally out. US dietary guidelines 2015 they started saying cholesterol is no longer a nutrient of concern for overconsumption. But these guys are very smart. এদিকে ওনারা বলছে cholesterol is not a problem, but then they come up with another term to scare the public. So I'm coming to that now. So low fat আমি তো বললাম it can actually be bad. Low fat diet doesn't work. এখানে একটা বড় স্টাডি হয়েছিল 65,000 men and women. Conclusion দেখা গেছিল low fat diet cannot be shown to be effective at fighting obesity, diabetes, heart disease. They showed a low fat actually increased heart disease. So recommendation উঠে গেল. But তারপর what do they had another আচ্ছা আরেকটা 2007 এ একটা ওয়ার্ল্ড ক্যান্সার রিপোর্টে এটাও দেখিয়ে দিল no association between fat of any kind and cancer. তো এই যে অনেক আগে একটা স্লাইডে দেখালাম যে ক্যান্সার রেট বেড়ে যাচ্ছে. So they studied about that, okay? They found that there's no relation between fat and cancer. So now look, dropped by the American Heart Association, dietary guidelines started saying low fat is not a big problem. 2000 সাল থেকে বলা শুরু করলো. This is again what actually clogs the arteries. All of you might be wondering, তাহলে আমাদের artery block হচ্ছে কেন? Heart disease এত হচ্ছে কেন? In our earlier discussion, where I'd spoken about diabetes, I'd spoken about something called insulin resistance. So it has a different hypothesis. Insulin resistance, যদি হ্যাঁ এটা again a technical topic. Those of you who had missed the previous one, insulin আমাদের সবার শরীরে secretion হয়. আমরা যখনই কিছু খাই আমাদের blood sugar বাড়বে. Blood sugar বাড়লে আমাদের pancreas secretes insulin. But if you're having too much insulin throughout the day, it causes inflammation, swelling in various parts of your body, which includes inflammation in your large vessel walls. Now that inflammation eventually has to be fixed. You know who fixes that inflammation? It is the cholesterol. Not the cholesterol being stuck there. We have cholesterol being produced by the liver. Vessel endothelial wall এর ভিতরে যদি inflammation হয়, our body then tries to repair the problem. So if you're walking outside a building and you see the building is on fire and you see some fire engines standing outside, will you blame the fire engines for the fire? Fire engine গুলো তো এখানে সারাতে এসছে প্রবলেমটা. So similarly, Ansel Keys, when he was doing post-mortem on some subjects in the early 1950s and he found cholesterol, he immediately blamed the cholesterol. But the problem was the insulin resistance, inflammation. The body then deposits cholesterol at the sites of damage in an effort to smoothen and repair the walls. But barbar যদি ওই inflammation এর repair হতে থাকে তাহলে বারবার cholesterol ওখানে deposit হচ্ছে তারপর narrowing হয়. So the culprit is the inflammation due to insulin, not the cholesterol. So this is the hypothesis which I'm talking about, which actually makes some sense. Carbohydrate insulin hypothesis. বেশি কার্বোহাইড্রেট খেলে বেশি ফ্যাট নয়, কিন্তু মুখে ফ্যাট খেলে আমাদের শরীরে ফ্যাট তৈরি হচ্ছে না. ফ্যাট কি থেকে তৈরি হচ্ছে? বেশি কার্বোহাইড্রেট খেলে. হ্যাঁ, হেলদি আনহেলদি কার্বোহাইড্রেট সবই আছে, বাট অবভিয়াসলি আই এম টকিং অ্যাবাউট দ্য প্রসেসড রিফাইন্ড কার্বোহাইড্রেট. ইনসুলিন লেভেল বাড়ে. ইনসুলিন লেভেল বেশি বাড়লে it turns that blood glucose into fat. That leads to obesity, fatty liver, vessel blockages. And eventually resistance বাড়তে গেলে you become a diabetic. So remember, it's the carbohydrates, it's never the fat, it has never been the fat. This is going to shock you now. 70 controlled clinical trials on 7,000 people, okay, extending up till 2 years long. Low carb consistently leads to equal or more weight loss than low fat. So we've all been used to low fat advice. Just lower your carbohydrates. You will see the huge health benefits you will start getting. And at a study is underway even for type 2 diabetics. It's using a ketogenic diet. Ketogenic basically means low carb and high fat. So 60% people have reversed their type 2 diabetes. And that is exactly the type of doctor which I do. I use nutrition and not pills, as Dr. Biswas mentioned, to fix your diabetes. Why give a pill when you can just change your food? For my vegetarian friends out there, some information about the dairy industry. Why I'm specifying dairy? If I'm talking about the fat and the fat is good for you, you will not get much fat in vegetables. So the fat have. For vegan people, it becomes a bit more difficult because they will also not have milk products. But if you are not a vegan, if you want to be a vegetarian for whatever reason, it's totally fine. But milk or milk product will be your mainstay of good, healthy, saturated fats. So you should always go full fat, never toned or skimmed. If you see these results, whole milk increased HDL cholesterol concentration. Dairy intake at age of 10 years do not adversely affect risk of any fat buildup at 13 years. So my point is, if you want to have dairy products, never go for the skimmed milk, the toned milk. Choose the fattiest milk you can, the fattiest butter, ghee, cheese you can have it. You're going to be
the full cream milk, right?
Absolutely. Full cream milk. একেবারে আপনার লোকাল গোয়ালা যদি থাকে সেখান থেকে সোর্স করলে ইউ টেল देम আমাকে শর্ট দিয়ে দুধটা দেবেন, শর্টটা বাদ দেবেন কেন? That is the healthiest part of the milk. Okay, so how is full fat dairy good for you? Saturated fats again raise your HDL, the supposed good cholesterol. Okay, it is the only food known to do so. These many animal foods are actually highly nutritious and those nutrients are very bioavailable. Saturated fats are stable. But rannar teler kotha jokhon bolchi, say a saturated fat like a butter or ghee, it's brilliant for cooking as well. Karon these are very stable. Egulo they do not oxidize when you heat them. Ar amra to Indian, amra shob heat kore khai. So what I say is the best oils for cooking: ghee, butter, coconut oil, things like this. Ar arekta ব্যাপার, the advantage of high fat, চট করে পেট ভরে যায়. So you feel satisfied for a long time. So now look what happens. এখানে milk, high fat milk, বিভিন্ন evidence বেরোচ্ছে that these are good for you. Yet some industry thinks that ওদের ব্যবসাটা তো মুশকিল হয়ে যাবে. So what they do is saturated fats become the punching bag again. So why? Saturated fats remain the caps. But the reason for low fat dairy, low demand for milk is because of competition from plant-based products. এখন you'll see very commonly used among fitness freaks, from people in the health industry, they use milk like animal milk, soya milk. Bhabe milker moddhe to kichu problem ache. Now look what happens here. 2015 dietary guidelines, edike dietary guidelines bollo that okay, cholesterol is not a big problem. But yet, look what they're publishing. Healthy eating patterns include soy beverages, soy milk, okay? Other products, milks made from plants. So in a way, they're again ignoring normal regular milk or ghee or butter or these products, cheese, and they're saying go for soy milk, go for plant-based milk. So you know what the reason is? Now look here. 1970 সাল থেকে 2014, again a big rise in obesity and diabetes. We all know, we don't need graphs to tell you that. আমরা যেদিকে তাকাই either obese or diabetic. Now look, at the same time, hand in hand, plant-based nutrition has gone on increasing. Again, I said I have no problem with people on plant-based nutrition, but you always should look at some evidence, because at the end of the day, we all want to be healthy, right? আর এদিকে the animal products have been on the decline. Now, there's a group formed by Nina Teicholz. It's called the Nutrition Coalition. The only thing they're trying to do is seeking the truth. We have now, based on this few minutes of my slide, you've figured out that there is no hard evidence since 1950s to support what we've been being told, to stay low on fat, have less of dairy products. So this is basically a non-industry backed non-profit group who want to dedicate evidence-based guidelines. I myself, including them, I do not endorse any single one diet. Every human being is different. There are always different requirements for everyone. But at the same time, we simply want our national dietary policy to be based on proper science. Science bole jokhon ekta jinish ache, we should go by science, not by what someone tells the world based on studying 33 people in some Greek island, isn't it? So we need controlled clinical trials. What you realize is there has not been a proper systematic review on saturated fats. The committees in the past has never systematically reviewed any large funded trials to come to a conclusion. So So are they really bothered about our good health? This is the question which we should ask ourselves. The 2015 Dietary Committee, a large majority, the committee consists of 14 people. So 11 out of those 14 people, that is 80%, have consistently published work in favor of plant-based, low animal fat vegetarian diets. And most of these people have built their careers promoting these type of diets. So you can understand there's some vested interests involved. Going back to our hero of this story, Mr. Ansel Keys, hero in inverted commas, the American Heart Association started calling cholesterol bad. কখন বলতে শুরু করলো জানেন? When the company is using vegetable oils, remember Crisco, started making donations to the American. আগে American Heart Association was a small group, irrelevant, পয়সা কড়ি ছিল না. So they got a donation. Ansel Keys actually got the donation of $1.7 million in those days. A deal was brokered where Procter and Gamble, makers of hydrogenated fat vegetable oil, paid the Heart Association $1.7 million. সেই দিন থেকে cholesterol বাজে হয়ে গেল. And a small history of Ansel Keys. He's a PhD in oceanography. He started the World War II ration system where he also included cigarettes and addicted millions. Obviously, he was author of the famous 7-country study, but he intentionally excluded 16 countries that he did not support his theory. He used trans fat. Trans fat is a type of fat. I'll just touch upon it in the next few slides. যেটা margarine আর কিছু কিছু vegetables থাকে. He used trans fat for his experiments, but he did not mention that. Everyone thought it was butter. He silently suppressed that information. And architect of the American version of the Mediterranean diet. So these are the things he's been doing. Now, just a quick touch up on the fats in our food. Since this is about fat, you should have a basic idea of fat. 3 রকম fat আছে আমাদের খাবারে: saturated fat, monounsaturated fat, polyunsaturated fat. Saturated fat তো এতক্ষণ বলে গেলাম: butter, ghee, ডিম, red meat. So these I've been telling you for the last 15, 20, 30 minutes that they're good for you. And সব ফ্যাটেরই একটু ব্যালেন্স থাকলে কোনো অসুবিধা নেই, but these are the fats. Now look what we have in saturated fat. Animal fats, সব রকম. Eggs, dairy, meat. Coconut oil, palm oil, they have a lot of saturated fat. That's why I said coconut oil is one of the healthier oils or one of the healthiest oils to cook any food in. Monounsaturated fat, olive oil, avocado oil, কিছু nuts, peanut butter, things like that থাকে. হ্যাঁ, monounsaturated fat-এ omega 9 আর omega 7 দুটো জিনিস থাকে। এগুলো খুব মনে রাখার কিছু নয়, but omega 9 helps reduce blood pressure. Okay, omega 7 is very anti-inflammatory. inflammation বলতে কারোর অ্যাসিডিটি হয়, কারোর malabsorption হয়, কারোর joint pain হয়. You will be surprised by increasing omega 7 and omega 9. It acts as anti-inflammatory in your body. ঠিক আছে? So why go for a painkiller if you can help out with these? Polyunsaturated fats. Now coming to the vegetable oils. Amra noy. 99% of the worldwide population cooks using these oils. And remember, এই তেলগুলো এককালে ইউজ হতো কিসে? Machinery, lubrication. So the company smartly did a few refinements with these. Now these are all the oils we use. And একটাকে বলে, হ্যাঁ, current dietary guidelines বলে don't use trans fats. Trans fats are oils which are even more hydrogenated. Hydrogenated মানে they are go through a manufacturing process so that they're kept liquid at room temperature by adding a hydrogen bond. But the problem with these oils is polyunsaturated fats. Polyunsaturated fats কিন্তু include omega 3 and omega 6. So I will not say all of them are bad. Omega 3 is good for us in decent amounts. It is again anti-inflammatory. Omega 6 বেশি খেলে it causes inflammation. It can cause pancreatic inflammation. It can cause cancers. It can cause gut swelling. So what about vegetable oil? ওই এত কিছু তেল মাথায় ঢুকলে we'll get confused for now, but vegetable oil যেগুলো দিয়ে আমরা রান্না করি, these are the 3 worst oils you can be using for cooking. And সবাই দেখেই তো ঘাবড়ে যাচ্ছে that এইগুলোই তো আমরা ইউজ করি: corn, canola, sunflower, rice bran, soya bean. These are promoted as the healthiest oils. Cano, again, healthy for the heart. But I think I've shown you that it is totally incorrect. So just a quick graph. Greener dike jegulo ache, these are the oils you can like, take a picture of this, or this will be put up as a YouTube link later on, so you can take a screen capture of this. Green section, these are the oils which are most heat stable. আমি যতই গরম করি এগুলো অক্সিডেশন হবে না। অক্সিডেশন হলে কি হয় তেলগুলো, they bring out some toxic substances called aldehydes and omega 6. Too much of aldehydes and omega 6, they cause pancreatic inflammation. Last 5 years বিভিন্ন studies বলছে they can also cause increased rates of cancer. So why do you think cancer is increasing worldwide so much? Yes, ভেজাল বেড়ে গেছে, pollution বেড়ে গেছে, but this is something we all overlook. So whether you have a kid at home, whether you have an elderly at home, or even whether it's you watching this right now, try avoiding these oils. I know they're cheap, they're everywhere, easily available, but the best oils are animal meat, fats, butter, ghee, coconut oil, olive oil, and মাঝের জায়গায় হ্যাঁ কোকোনাট অয়েল আর অ্যাভোকাডো অয়েল, পিনাট অয়েলস, এগুলো কিছুটা ইউজ করা যায়। বাট রেড এর মধ্যে sunflower, safflower, rice bran. I know the vegetable oil industry is going to hate me for this because it's a huge money making industry, but that's just how it is. Omega 6, if you see, ছোট্ট গ্রাফ বানিয়েছি কোকোনাট অয়েলে, on the left hand infographic, if you look, কোকোনাট অয়েলে only 2% omega 6 আছে. Now look, go up to the corn oil and soybean oil and canola oil. They're loaded with omega 3. So যত omega 3 বাড়বে তত কিন্তু you're going to have more inflammation, more insulin resistance. এটা কিন্তু important.
Omega 6.
Omega 6. So omega 6 যত বেশি থাকবে, it is also a leading cause for insulin resistance. Insulin resistance leads to obesity, leads to cardiovascular plaque and deposition, leads to type 2 diabetes. ঠিক আছে? And this is again just telling you how omega 3 and omega 6 can trigger inflammation. So if you want to be low on inflammation, avoid vegetable oils as much as possible. And now again, coming back to the money part of the equation, high PUFA, polyunsaturated fatty acid diets, they're all funded by, look who's the main funder, the food industry, the healthcare industry, and the retail industry. These are the major players funding these people, and eventually these are the people funding the American Heart Association till date. So এরা যদি কোটি 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 টাকা দিতে থাকে to the American Heart Association, American Diabetes Association, you can understand what's going wrong. Pharma company bhorti, they want their medicines to be sold. Food industries like Kellogg's, oil industries, Subway, Quaker Oats, Pepsi. So they want you to be sick and unhealthy. তাহলেই তো ওদের ওষুধ বিক্রি হবে. No one wants you to be healthy. Keep that in mind. There's only money to be made in sickness, not in health.
That's a very bold. Yes, correct. Yes. You're right.
Very true. So statins. We all love our statins. I would prescribe my patients statins. I have to acknowledge with folded hands that I was making a big mistake. A lot of doctors who are my friends, they acknowledge the same. Those are not my friends. They say, "Na statin doctor, they are uchit." But, and again, statins along with diabetic medication is one of the highest money-making medicines on the planet. So see this graph. How, like, if you have cholesterol of 201, a doctor will say, statin shuru kore din, nale your heart will be in trouble. একবার মানুষের মাথায় ভয় ঢুকিয়ে দিন না, যা চাইবেন বিক্রি করতে পারবেন। কোভিডে তো দেখলেন, fear makes people panic buy. Could be a medicine, it could be anything else. Now, one very, very interesting statistic on statins, and it's all out there. I'm not imagining all this. It's in the British Medical Journal data. You'll find it in many places. 11 studies. Now look at the size of the study. 11 studies involving 95,000 participants over 4.5 বছর showed this. People with history of heart disease, people on statins versus people not on statins. statins increase the lifespan by 5.2 days. So isn't that like hilarious? And যাদের কোনো heart disease নেই, a statin would increase their lifespan by 3.1 days. So is that worth even taking a statin for? And yes, statins now come with a lot of side effects. মানে আমার কাছে কোনো পেশেন্ট এলে, আচ্ছা দিস ইজ অ্যানাদার নিউজপেপার আর্টিকেলে বেরিয়েছিল, স্ট্যাটিনস অ্যাড আ মিয়ার 3 days to your life. So আমার কাছে যখন কোনো পেশেন্ট আছে, before I even see the lipid profile report, and yes, if anyone is watching this out of my patients, I know you're laughing already. I know a few patients had even contacted me over the last week, sir, আমার cholesterol তো বেড়ে গেল. So I'll be talking to a few of you tonight. I know you understand which ones I'm talking about. So আমি যদি কোনো ব্লাড রিপোর্ট না দেখি, আমি চোখ বন্ধ করে with a lot of confidence, this has come from some clinical confidence which I've gathered, I stop the statin. And যদি দেখি cholesterol 100 কাছে, I'll say you are ruining your health. What happens to your body when you take statins? It lowers your cholesterol, manlam. But lower cholesterol is unhealthy for you, which I already mentioned. 30% of your brain is made up of cholesterol. You need cholesterol for hormones. People with low cholesterol, they look unhealthy, they're weak, they have degenerative joint conditions, bad nerve functioning, and long-term risks, as a side effects, muscle pain hoy, liver swelling hoy. Cholesterol causes liver swelling. Sorry, what am I saying? Cholesterol, no? Your statins. And increased use of statins, what it does is, it increases the risk of type 2 diabetes. So you will see almost every single type 2 diabetes patient এদিকে সুগারের ওষুধ খাচ্ছে, এদিকে খাবারের মধ্যে unknowingly সুগার খেয়ে যাচ্ছে, এদিকে একটা স্ট্যাটিনও খাচ্ছে. So you can see the mess they're in. And এদিকে ডান দিকে you'll see the most common reasons of people stopping statin use, its side effects. 62% of people on statins, they have some or the other side effect which becomes very unpleasant, and they stop their statin. So where do we stand today? What is the latest on the politics of nutrition world? The latest is the 2020 to 2025 dietary guidelines. They were recently announced in December last year. Based on this, the rest of the world will now just copy paste them and follow suit. ঠিক আছে? So কি বলেছেন ওনারা? Were we able to force a small difference despite the efforts of so many amazing nutritionists and scientists like Nina Tykos, Tim Noakes, Zoe Harcom, naming just a few. Dietary guidelines, I've underlined a few things. Look at this. 2020 থেকে 2025. What this effectively means is 2025 এর আগে আর কোনো চেঞ্জ হবে না. So if you want to follow this, you are in a way doomed till 2025. So they've asked you to include grains as part of your healthy eating pattern at any life stage. Be it a child, be it an elderly, whether you're a diabetic, whether you're a hypertensive, grain beshi kore khan. So, not much improvement over there. Ever look at this. Nutrient dense khawar khete boleche. That's the term they've used. So, look in the right side. যেটা ব্লু এর মধ্যে আছে, নিউট্রিয়েন্ট ডেন্স এর মধ্যে হুইট বলেছে, low fat yogurt with fruit. So low fat, again they're going back to low fat despite so much evidence against this. বলছে low fat দই খান, আমি তো বললাম full fat খেতে হবে. They themselves had shown that full fat is good, but the latest guidelines have very smartly, they've said low fat আর তার মধ্যে ফল খান. ফলে কি আছে? That's another topic for another day, but ফলে তো fructose ভর্তি, ভিটামিন মিনারেল তো আছে. ফ্রুক্টোজ মানে কার্বোহাইড্রেট মানে ইনসুলিন স্পাইক, ইনসুলিন মানে again ইনসুলিন রেজিস্ট্যান্স, ওবেসিটি, ডায়াবেটিস. ভেজিটেবল অয়েলসটা দেখুন, বড় করে লিখেছে ভেজিটেবল অয়েলস খাওয়া উচিত, বাটারটাকে নিচের দিকে নামিয়ে দিয়েছে. সো अगेन ব্যাক টু স্কোয়ার ওয়ান. 2025 পর্যন্ত এনিওয়ান এট ফলোইং দ্য ডায়েটারি গাইডলাইন্স উইল থিঙ্ক, মানে আমার কথাকে বিশ্বাস করবে, দে গোনা বিলিভ দিস গাইজ, রাইট, দ্য বিগ প্লেয়ার্স. So they're going to think butter is bad, vegetable oil continues to be good. Again, this whole dietary guideline, make half of your plate fruits and vegetables, focus on whole fruits. I mean, manlam juice থেকে 1000 গুণ better fruits, but if you are a healthy person, maybe a sports person, an athlete, regular physical activity, fruits are fine. I will never say fruits are a problem. But if you are a sedentary lifestyle, if you have slight metabolic disorder, if you're even borderline hypertensive, diabetes, or overweight, be careful of the fruits. তারপর কি লিখেছে, make half of your grains whole grains, choose food and beverages with less added sugar, that's one good thing, যেটা ভালো বলতে হবে ভালো, but less saturated fat. আবার স্যাচুরেটেড ফ্যাট কে ভিলেন বানাচ্ছে। আর ডান দিকে কি, move to low fat or fat free dairy. Fat free dairy is going to kill you. You need fat in your food, and if you're a vegetarian, you need fat via your milk products because you cannot get it from meat and egg. So again, soya industry is funding the American Heart Association. They want their products to sell, so simply they're making them happy with these guidelines. So now look, these are the two small bullet points of this guideline which will continue till 2025. Number one, dietary cholesterol was not a nutrient of concern to the 2025 committee. So ওরা স্বীকার করলো cholesterol in your diet is not a problem. তো আজ থেকে একদম খুশি হয়ে মাটন খাবেন, ডিমের কুসুম খাবেন। But saturated fat remains the main nutrient of concern. So কিরকম flip flop খেললো, you see, they're just trying to confuse the people, saying dietary cholesterol is not a concern, but saturated fat remains the main nutrient of concern for the committee. And quoting them, the dietary guidelines highlighted the fact that fake food, sandwiches, desserts, sweets, snacks, pizza, chips, and fries was the main source of saturated fat. ওরা চালাকি করে কি করলো, এই ফাস্ট ফুডগুলোর মধ্যে স্যাচুরেটেড ফ্যাটটা পুরো ঢুকিয়ে they correlated both. So instead of issuing guidelines steering people away from junk food, মানে junk food কে ভিলেন বানালো না, কারণ জাঙ্ক ফুডের মধ্যে তো পেপসি আছে, সাবওয়ে আছে, ম্যাকডোনাল্ডস আছে, এদেরকে তো খুশি রাখতে হবে, and they are funding them. They just continued to damn and villainize saturated fat. So we are again back to square one. আর আমাদের ইন্ডিয়ান পার্সপেক্টিভ, if you look based on the ICMR guidelines, এখানে আমাদের recommended guidelines অনুযায়ী আমাদের মাত্র ফ্যাটটা কম করে খেতে বলা হচ্ছে। They've even said something like egg, fish, meat can substitute pulses, which is a good thing. But at the end of the day, they've said grains and pulses and vegetables and fruits should constitute the largest part of your food. So there's a very simple reason why India te obesity, diabetes, hypertension, din badche. ঠিক আছে? And we're almost wrapping up now. This is the way Indians are advised to eat. I'd shown this slide in my previous webinar as well. But what happens is, see, the plate is full of grains, which leads to insulin resistance. The plate is full of fruits and vegetables. So vegetables are fine, but the fruits can be a problem. এর মধ্যে ফ্যাট কোথায় খুঁজে পাচ্ছেন? আমি তো শুধু ছোট্ট একটা ডিম দেখছি, একটা ছোট মাংস দেখছি, আর একটা বোধহয় দুধ দেখছি। So they're asking to have less fat and be healthy. So the food pyramid, again going back, we are following the same food pyramid as the latest American guidelines. Have grains, have fruits, have very little fat and meat. So what needs to be done? I had again said this in the last discussion. I'll say it today, I'll say it tomorrow. We need to flip the food pyramid. The primary composition of your food should comprise of, yes, I will go on speaking good about this way of lifestyle, low carbohydrate, high fat. Eat your good healthy fats, not the unhealthy fats which I spoke about, like the trans fats and the polyunsaturated fatty oils like the vegetable oils. Good fats you will get in animal products, you will get in certain nuts, you will get it in butter, ghee, you will get it in egg, you will get it in things like avocado, some seeds, high density omega-3 seeds like chia seeds, flax seeds, and of course dairy products definitely. Now, despite our efforts, despite the obstacles we face, there has been a wave of change. A famous Time magazine, 1984, they were villainizing cholesterol. এখন they have said on their front page that yes, you can eat butter. So the word is spreading bit by bit. It's going to be a challenge, but it's happening. And one thing, I myself, I'm 43 years old now. I started this lifestyle almost 6-7 years ago. I'm just going to show you a funny slide. The next one. I used to eat low fat myself. When I was following the usual advice from my doctor colleagues, from the medical books. So I'm going to show you a funny picture. Funny because, I had the confidence to show my tummy to you guys. When I was in a low-fat diet, you see what I looked like. Now I am on a high-fat diet for the last, I think, 5-6 years. See how my body has changed. That's me in 2016. তখন পেট ভরে ভাত ডাল গ্রেনস খেতাম বাটার কম খেতাম ডিম 2-3টে খেতাম. Over the years I have been eating a lot of food. Yes, I do exercise, not very often, সপ্তাহে 2-3 দিনের বেশি নয়. But that what you see in the tummy or the lack of that fat in my tummy is because I'm eating more fat. So isn't it strange? This fat বেশি খাচ্ছি কিন্তু পেটের fat তো চলে যাচ্ছে. So this is just something maybe to inspire you, motivate you, or to tell you that I've walked the talk. It actually works. Finally, a big thank you to Dr. Biswas and Sunitra for giving me again this wonderful opportunity to talk about good health and breaking myths and helping out make the world a healthier place in our small way. Thank you so much, Dr. Biswas.
Parikshit, thanks a lot. Just to quick summary for the general people and the listeners about their own lifestyle. So for cooking oil, you have suggested ghee, butter, and coconut oil.
Yes, অনেকগুলো oil আছে, avocado oil and things like that, but the easily available ones are butter, ghee, সবার বাড়িতে থাকে. They're not very expensive as well. Coconut oil.
Okay, and then does this oil need to be cold pressed? Is it better?
Yes, cold pressed will definitely better. Are things like avocado oil, olive oil use করা যায়, mustard oil ও কিছুটা use করা যায়. কিছু কিছু বাঙালি প্রিপারেশনে পাঠার মাংসটা মাটন ওইটা কষা সরষের তেল ছাড়া ভালো লাগে না, মাছ সরষের তেলে ভালো লাগে না.
So since the time that I have been influenced and been following your advice, আমাদের বাড়িতে cooking medium has become ghee, homemade butter, and coconut oil, and I have also becoming lean and strong, and maybe at some future point of time I can also show my abdomen to you.
বয়স কমে যাবে, trust me, you will actually feel younger.
Okay. When I know it does help.
How old are you, by the way? How old are you?
You want me to say it publicly? I don't think I should. Guess. Make a guess.
You are what? You'll be plus 50 to sure. 52.
Okay, you're not too far away. Okay, we'll come to that later. Regarding your advice on omega-6.
Yes.
So apart from this vegetable oils that you mentioned, that they break up into aldehydes and release omega-6, which ultimately causes insulin resistance and inflammation.
Yes.
Is that right? Have I got it right?
Yes, absolutely.
So are there any other foodstuffs which contains omega-6 that we should not eat much of that?
Yes. Now omega-6 is contained in canola oil, vegetable oil. Now,
other than oils,
omega-6 you'll get it in things like seeds. অনেকে আজকাল লোকেরা seeds খেতে পছন্দ করে, sunflower seeds. Look, oils এর মধ্যে তফাৎটা হচ্ছে the seed oils and the vegetables. The oils which are extracted from the vegetable. Now look, olive oil, okay, avocado oil, coconut oil, এগুলো তো vegetables in a way, but these are extracted from the fruit, okay, or the vegetable. These have more 3 and less 6. Now seed কেন বলছি, other oils which are the bad oils which I've highlighted, they are extracted from the seed. So yeah, if someone has a healthy seed like a sunflower, chia, flaxseed, small amounts are okay, but the moment you have a lot of it, what happens is it will invariably increase your omega-6.
So a lot of people are in the supermarkets also nowadays. You find this packets of pumpkin seeds and
yes,
sunflower seeds and all these.
Small amounts because look, the seeds are a composite of a lot of the oil, the fats. They have a mix of omega-3, omega-6. Omega-3 সবসময় মনে রাখবেন, it is very anti-inflammatory. Omega-6 causes inflammation, but small amounts of omega-6 is not a problem. মানে
Omega-3 is very useful for the eyes as well.
Oh yes, this is something you will know better than me. Omega-3 is definitely useful, and you should make sure if you are low on omega-3, I'm the omega-3 supplement di, but omega-3 you'll get it in fish oils, you get it in algae, you get it in flax, chia, এগুলোতে কম থাকে. So yes, omega-3 is something you should definitely.
How about say things like nuts and walnuts in particular? Do they contain a lot of omega-3?
omega-3 থাকে. omega-3 এগুলোতে omega-6 কম থাকে, omega-3 থাকে.
Okay, good. Good. Yes, there's plenty to catch up with, and it's how people take it. So I can only tell you from and tell the audience from my own experience, having followed your advice, that ever since I stopped cut down on the carbs as per your suggestion and increased my fat intake, I have been feeling healthier. I have been feeling more energetic. And yes, my mobility and everything has improved. And as you advised me, I eat plenty of eggs nowadays, anything between 6 to 8 per day, and most of them with a yolk.
I would be lucky to be as healthy as you at your age. Trust me. I don't know your age yet, but you haven't told me that. But Bengali Jagdish Sarkar. I think I was using some Bengali in between. But anyway,
that's okay. You must have a follow-up and give us some more insights into a good diet and break myths of eating. And I would request you to follow this up next week on some diet-related topic as well.
Yes, we have something lined up for next week, another very interesting topic. So we will discuss that and meet next week.
Excellent. Okay. I think we'll call it a day. It was a great learning experience. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thanks a lot.